It started like any other late-night scroll. Stupid memes, drama, the usual noise. Then, one thread appeared that nobody joked about. You're listening to LurmoStories, where the stories aren't screenshot bait. They're the ones people regret posting. If you stay, don't expect to feel alone in your room anymore. Found the listing on a local housing board. Price was low enough to feel like a typo. 1 bedroom in a subdivided city apartment, utilities included. The only odd line said, shared unit. I assume thin walls, maybe a second renter I'd barely see. The administrator met me outside the building. Mid-40s, clipboard, tired smile. She unlocked the front door and explained the layout. Old pre-war place carved into smaller units. My room was at the end of a short hallway. Kitchen and bathroom were communal, but you'll mostly have the place to yourself. I asked about the roommate. He keeps to himself, she said, already writing. You probably won't interact. First night, I noticed the smell. Not trash, not rot. More like sour fabric left wet too long. It drifted from the hallway, strongest near the closed door across from my room. I figured it was the roommate. Around midnight, I heard him moving. Slow footsteps, bare feet. The floorboards complained softly, stopping outside my door, then continuing to the bathroom. The toilet flushed, sink ran. Nothing unusual, just close. Too close. Day 2, I saw him briefly. Thin, shirtless, standing in the kitchen when I came out. He didn't turn around. His back was pale and blotchy, like old bruises under the skin. He stood completely still while the kettle screamed on the stove. "Hey," I said. He turned his head just enough that I could see one eye. Bloodshot, unfocused. He didn't answer. Turned the stove off. Walked back to his room without picking up the kettle. The smell got worse after that. It clung to my clothes. When I texted the administrator, she replied hours later. "I'll check in tomorrow. Your roommate hasn't arrived yet, so something else must be causing it." I read that message twice. That night, the footsteps came again, slower. He stopped outside my door longer this time. I heard breathing, not heavy, measured, like someone counting. In the morning, the administrator unlocked the apartment while I stood behind her. She looked confused as soon as the door opened. "Your roommate didn't come yet," she said again, more firmly. "This unit's been empty all week." The door across from mine was open. The room inside was bare. No bed, no clothes, no sign anyone had been there. But the floor near the wall was dark and damp, and the smell was strongest there, seeping out of the wood like it had settled deep and decided to stay. The administrator kept saying it didn't make sense. She stepped into the empty room, shoes sticking slightly to the floor, and frowned at the wall. There were faint rectangular marks where something heavy had leaned for a long time. Not furniture, more like weight pressed again and again. She asked if I'd let anyone else in. I hadn't. She checked the locks, the windows, even the maintenance log on her phone. No entries, no key usage, no work orders. "What about the smell?" I asked. She said old buildings trap odors, moisture, rodents. Her voice didn't convince either of us. I stayed because my lease was signed, and I didn't have a backup. That was my mistake. I kept my door locked and avoided the hallway as much as possible. Still, things kept shifting. The bathroom mirror fogged even when no one showered. The kitchen trash bag was heavier in the mornings than when I tied it. Once, I found damp footprints near the sink. Bare feet. Too large to be mine. I set my phone to record audio while I slept. At 2:14 a.m., the footsteps returned, clearer now. They crossed the hall, paused, then entered the empty room. Something dragged along the floor, wood against wood. Then a wet sound, like fabric being wrung out. In the morning, the audio caught breathing again, closer than before. So close, the microphone distorted. I sent the file to the administrator. She came back that afternoon with a maintenance guy. He pulled up a section of baseboard in the empty room. Behind it, the drywall was swollen and soft. He cut into it. The smell poured out immediately. Inside the wall cavity was a narrow space, sealed off with old boards, not part of any blueprint. The maintenance guy didn't say anything after that. He just stepped back. There were stains layered over stains, fabric fibers stuck to the wood, and impressions in the dust on the floor inside, shaped like shoulders, hips, a head resting sideways, as if someone had been placed there, removed, then placed back again. The administrator kept whispering, "That's not possible." She ended the lease on the spot, told me to pack and leave. As I carried my last box out, I felt eyes on my back from the hallway. Later that evening, she called me. She said the unit was never supposed to be rented. It had been marked shared because the space inside the walls was listed as occupied in an old inspection report. No name, just one note. Resident still present. Do not disturb. I didn't sleep in that building again. I drove until morning and checked into a motel off the highway. The administrator told me not to talk about the apartment, said the owner's lawyer would handle everything. My deposit showed up the next day with a note apologizing for the inconvenience. I tried to let it end there. 2 days later, I noticed the smell again. Faint but familiar. Sour fabric, damp wood. I thought it was my jacket. Washed it. Still there. Then my car. Then the motel room. I checked my phone. At 2:14 a.m., the audio recorder app was running. I hadn't turned it on. The file was new, only a few minutes long. At first, it was just static and distant traffic. Then the sound of wood creaking, close and hollow, like inside a wall. Slow movement. A pause. Breathing. Not distorted this time. Calm. Patient. A soft sound followed, like fingertips brushing a microphone. Someone adjusting it. Then a voice, low and careful, as if afraid of waking someone else. You left your door open. I deleted the file.
Threw the phone away at a gas station. Bought a new one with cash. For a while, that worked. Until I moved again. The new apartment was fine. Normal price. No shared space, no hallway. But on move-in day, the superintendent handed me the keys and joked, "At least you won't be sharing this one." I asked what he meant. He checked his clipboard, squinted. Must be an old note. That night, I noticed a section of wall in the bedroom that sounded different when I knocked on it. Thinner, hollow, warmer than the rest. Around 2:14 a.m., the floor creaked. Not footsteps this time. Pressure, like someone leaning from the other side, settling in, exactly where a bed would be placed. I sleep on the couch now. I don't unpack fully. I don't hang pictures. Because sometimes, just before the building goes quiet, I hear slow breathing coming from inside the walls, moving carefully, learning the layout again, waiting for me to forget that the apartment is shared. Anon here. Rented a one-bedroom in a mid-tier apartment complex outside Phoenix. Stucco walls, gravel paths, a sad little courtyard with 2 mesquite trees and a broken grill no one used. Quiet place. That was the selling point. I work nights, sleep days. No pets allowed in my unit anyway, which was fine because I don't own one. First week was nothing. Nodded at people, kept to myself. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, I got a knock. Property manager, mid-50s, clipboard, polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. She says, "We got a noise complaint about your dog." Told her, I don't have a dog. She checked the paper. Apartment number matched. She apologized, said maybe the neighbor got confused, asked me to keep it down anyway. Normal enough. People are weird. 2 days later, someone left a handwritten note taped to my door. All caps. "Control your dog. It howls all day." No name. Paper smelled like cigarette smoke. I work nights. I'm gone from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. During the day, I'm asleep, or at least trying to be. No TV, no music. I live alone. I stood there holding the note, listening to the hum of the AC units outside, wondering who would make something like that up. That night, walking in from the parking lot, I crossed the courtyard. Porch lights were on. A guy from the ground floor was standing by the grill, staring at my building. Older, shaved head, sandals, beer in hand. As I passed, he said, not looking at me, "You don't hear it?" "Hear what?" "Your dog. Starts around noon." Sounds sick. Told him again, no dog. He finally looked at me. His face tightened, like I just lied about something obvious. "Then whose is it?" he asked. Didn't answer, just went inside. A few days later, another complaint. This time, a warning slip from management about continued animal noise. I went to the office. They played me a recording from a phone voicemail left by a tenant. It wasn't barking. It was rhythmic. Long, uneven breaths breaking into a strained whine. Not loud, but close, like it was right outside a wall. The manager said, "That's coming from your unit." I asked what time it was recorded. She said, 1:17 p.m. That's when I'm at work. She frowned, like that part was inconvenient. That night, around 1 a.m., I woke up to scratching sounds. Not on the walls, on the door. Slow, careful, like something didn't want to be heard. From the courtyard side. And then came the whining. I didn't open the door, just stood there in the dark, hand on the knob, listening. The sound stopped the second I moved. No footsteps walking away, no shuffle,
just silence, thick enough that my ears rang. I checked the peephole. Hallway was empty. Courtyard light bleeding in through the window, same as always. Next morning, there was dirt on my doormat. Damp, packed, like something had been sitting there a while. That afternoon, I got another knock. Different neighbor this time. Woman from upstairs, late 30s, tired eyes. She didn't bother pretending to be polite.
"Please," she said, "just do something about it." "About what?" She swallowed. "The crying. It's not fair to keep an animal like that." I asked her to describe it. She hesitated, then said, "It sounds wrong, like it's trying to remember how." "Remember how to what?" She backed away a step and shook her head. "Just make it stop." Management escalated things fast after that. Threatened fines, threatened eviction. I showed them my lease. No pet clause. Asked them to inspect the unit. 2 maintenance guys came by while I was at work. They didn't find anything, but one of them, the younger one, asked me quietly on the way out if I'd checked the courtyard storage shed. I didn't even know there was one. It was behind the grill, half hidden by overgrown hedges, padlocked, rusted. That night, after my shift, I went out there with my phone light. The whining had been happening more often now, sometimes overlapping with the scratching. Always daytime, except for that one night. I was crouched by the shed when it started again. Close. Too close. Coming from inside my building. Lights started turning on around the courtyard. Windows opening. People leaning out, angry, scared, shouting at me to shut it up. Someone yelled, "Let it out already!" I backed away from the shed and looked up at my unit. The sound was coming from my door. I ran up the stairs. The whining cut off as soon as I hit the landing. My door was unlocked. Inside smelled lived in. Not rot, not trash. Warm. Like breath in fabric. My bedroom door was open. I never leave it open. There were scratch marks on the inside of the doorframe. Fresh. Wood curled outward. On my bed, the sheets were twisted, matted down in one spot, like something had been laying there all day. My closet door was ajar. From inside it came a slow, uneven breathing. And then, very quietly, something scratched back. I didn't open the closet, stood there, listening to the breathing shift, like it knew I was awake to it now, not hiding, waiting. The air coming out of the closet smelled like sun-warmed dust and sweat that had nowhere to go. My phone buzzed. Management email. Final notice. They said animal control would be involved in the morning if the disturbance continued. The breathing stopped when my phone lit up. I backed out of the apartment and spent the rest of the night in my car, parked across the lot. Around noon, I saw 2 animal control trucks pull in. Neighbors gathered in the courtyard like it was a show. The shaved head guy kept pointing up at my door. They knocked. No answer. They unlocked it. I watched them step inside. 10 minutes passed, then 20. One of them came back out alone, pale, sweating through his uniform. He didn't look at anyone, just went to the truck and sat there with the door open. The second guy came out later carrying a clipboard and nothing else. No crate, no leash. Animal control left without saying a word. That evening, the complaints stopped. Management called to apologize. Said there must have been shared ventilation noise, or something structural. Offered me a transfer to another unit as a courtesy. Different building, same complex. I took it. While packing, I found something behind the closet wall. A loose panel I'd never noticed. Behind it was insulation pressed flat, like it had been leaned on for a long time. And beneath that, a shallow hollow worn into the concrete. No fur, no blood, just grooves. Finger-shaped. I moved out that week. A month later, I checked the complex reviews out of curiosity. New ones mentioned a howling problem in my old building. Different unit number each time. Always blamed on a dog no one could ever find. The courtyard shed is gone now. So is the grill. Sometimes, when I'm half asleep during the day, I hear breathing that doesn't match my own. Slow, careful, like something nearby is listening to see if I remember how. I took the cab because the trains were shut down again. After midnight, the city feels staged. Empty blocks, lights stuck on green, storefronts reflecting themselves back at you. I slid into the back seat and gave my address. The driver nodded without looking up. He was older, gray at the temples, hands steady on the wheel. The car smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. No music.
The meter started, the car rolled, and that was it. For the first 10 minutes, nothing happened. We crossed downtown, past the hospital, then the long stretch where the bars thin out and the road widens. I checked my phone. No signal. Typical dead zone. At a red light, the driver spoke. "Long night?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Work ran late." He hummed like he was thinking something over. The light turned green, but he didn't go right away, just long enough for the car behind us to tap the horn. "People forget nights like this," he said, easing forward. "They think they remember, but they don't." I didn't answer. Drivers talk. It's part of the job. We turned down a street I didn't recognize. Still city, still lit, but narrower. Parked cars packed tight on both sides. The buildings looked older, brick instead of glass. I leaned forward slightly. "This isn't the usual way," I said. "Construction," he replied, immediately. Too immediately. "Detours faster." I watched the reflection of his eyes in the rearview mirror. He wasn't watching the road as much as he should have been. He was watching me. Another red light. No cross traffic, no pedestrians. "You ever take a cab you don't remember ordering?" he asked. "No." "Ever get home and realize you don't remember the ride?" I smiled, thin and automatic. "Can't say I have." He nodded, like that answered something important. We passed a bus stop with a bench bolted to the concrete. The bench was empty, but there was a jacket folded neatly on it, like someone had stood up and forgotten it. The cab slowed as we passed. I looked back. The jacket was gone. "Meter okay?" I asked, pointing. "It always ends where it should," he said. That's when I noticed the meter wasn't running anymore. The numbers were frozen, glowing faint red. I gave my address again, slower this time. He repeated it back to me, perfectly. "You'll remember this part," he said. "Most people do. It's later that gets thin." The car turned onto another street, then another, the same brick buildings repeating, same boarded windows, same flickering streetlights. My phone buzzed once. A notification preview flashed, then vanished before I could read it. The driver cleared his throat. "When we stop," he said, "I need to ask you something. Just answer honestly." The cab began to slow, pulling toward the curb. "Will you remember me?" The car stopped, and the doors didn't unlock. The locks stayed down. That soft mechanical thunk never came. I reached for the handle anyway. Nothing. The driver watched me in the mirror, calm, patient, like this part always took a moment. "Hey," I said. "Doors." "In a second," he replied. "Answer first." Outside, the street was wrong in small ways. Same brick buildings, but no numbers on the doors, no signs, no trash, no flyers, nothing loose, like a movie set after everyone goes home. "I don't know you," I said. "So, no?" He smiled, just enough for me to see it in the mirror. That's what they usually say. He reached forward and tapped the meter with one finger. The numbers flickered, then changed, not counting money, counting time, minutes, seconds, already running, already deep into something. "You picked me up," I said. "I didn't flag you down." "That's how it works," he said. "You never do." He leaned slightly, opening the glove compartment. I expected a gun, or paperwork, or something dramatic. Instead, he pulled out a small notebook. Cheap paper, edges darkened from handling. He flipped it open with care. "Say your name," he said. I didn't. He waited. The silence stretched, thick enough to hear the engine idling unevenly, like it was struggling to breathe. I told him my name. He nodded and ran a finger down a page, stopped, tapped once. "There you are," he said. "Fourth time." My mouth went dry. "Fourth time what?" "Fourth ride." He turned a notebook so I could see. Pages of names, dates, times, addresses, some crossed out, some circled. My name was there, written in the same neat handwriting. 4 entries. Different dates, same destination. "That's not possible," I said. "I would remember." He closed the book. "You remember pieces," he said. "Hospitals, trains being shut down, late work nights, always reasonable, always late." The streetlights outside flickered in sequence, one by one, like something passing underneath them. "You always ask about the route," he continued. "You always check the meter. And right about now, your phone should try to tell you something." My phone buzzed hard in my hand. Not a notification, an alarm. No label, just vibrating like it was desperate. I unlocked it. The screen showed a photo. It was me, sitting in the back seat of this cab. Same jacket, same angle. Time-stamped 3 years ago. In the reflection of the window behind me, The driver's seat was empty. I looked up. He was still there. "You won't remember how you get out," he said gently. "That part never sticks." The locks clicked. The doors unlocked. "And next time," he added, as I pushed the door open, "try not to sit behind me. It makes it harder." I stepped out onto the curb. The cab pulled away immediately, turning the corner and vanishing between two identical buildings. The street behind me was different now. New shops, bright signs, normal noise. A couple arguing across the road. A bus roaring past. My phone alarm stopped. When I got home, my address was right. My keys worked. Everything lined up, except for the faint smell of disinfectant on my jacket. And the fact that, for the life of me, I couldn't remember how I'd paid. I tried to shake it off the next day. That's the easy part. Daylight, noise, routine. The brain fills gaps when it has enough familiar input. I told myself the photo was fake. Old rideshare glitch. Memory stitching itself wrong. That explanation held until I checked my bank app. No charge, not pending, not reversed, just nothing. The ride didn't exist. I went through my phone gallery again. The photo was gone. No deleted folder copy either. Just a gap in the timeline where it should have been. The alarm I'd seen wasn't there anymore, but the slot for it was. An empty label, like something had been removed without cleaning up after. I noticed small things over the next few days. My jacket still smelled wrong, no matter how many times I washed it. Disinfectant, metallic, faintly sweet. When I passed taxis on the street, I caught myself checking the back seat first, not the driver. On the third night, the trains shut down again. Same alert wording as before. I stood on the platform longer than I needed to, watching people leave, weighing options I didn't want to admit I was weighing. I ordered a ride on my phone instead. Different company. App confirmation, driver photo, name, license plate, all normal. The car arrived on time. Different model, different color. I got in the back seat. The smell hit me first. Disinfectant, old coffee. The driver didn't look back. The app still showed my ride as searching for driver. He drove for 2 blocks before speaking. "You lasted longer this time," he said. My phone screen went dark on its own. "We're almost done," he continued, voice steady, practiced. "Just one more clean pass. After that, you won't need rides anymore." I watched the city slide by, streets subtly repeating, lights sinking the way they shouldn't. I tried to speak. My throat worked, my voice didn't. The meter clicked on. Not money, not time. A counter. 1 digit lower than last time. He slowed near a familiar curb. "Answer me," he said, almost tired now. "When you think back on tonight, will you remember me?" I understood then what the question was really doing. Not asking for truth, asking for permission. Outside, the street waited. Normal, loud, safe-looking. I nodded. The locks released. As I stepped out, he added, "Good, that makes it easier." The car pulled away. This morning, my alarm went off at the right time. My clothes smelled normal. My phone shows no missing photos, no gaps, no empty labels. Everything lines up. Except I woke up knowing, with absolute certainty, that if the trains shut down again, I won't even think about calling a cab. This was LurmoStories, where user deleted never means the story is gone. If you start seeing strange coincidences after this, just remember, every story you heard began with someone saying, "This is probably nothing."